Good morning, everybody. So, those of you who know Paul, who wrote quite a lot of the New Testament, will know that they speak of him as having a thorn in his side, something that problemed him throughout his service to God. When I die, the people remember me for having a thorn in my side. We don't know what Paul's was, but I'll tell you what mine is. It's IT. Okay? IT. So I'm only saying this just to, I'm sure this is God's way of increasing my ministry. But we have no PowerPoint today. I'd like to say it was IT's fault, but the truth is it was probably mine. But to follow this talk, you might want to grab a Bible. There are going to be lots of verses, unfortunately. And because I thought I'd be clever and not write them down on my notes, I'm going to have to keep referring to the Bible. So I'm going to have to ask for your infinite patience this morning. I have numbered everything, but we'll see how it goes. Right, anybody else want a Bible? David's given them out. Yep. Okay. But a lot of this is from Psalms and Isaiah and a bit in Acts. We're going all over the place, really. Right, so saying yes to life. We're carrying on our series. We've done 3 days so far, and God has created light and dark. He has given us the water and the skies, the land and the seas. And on the land, he has put plants and trees. And today we are now, it's at the 4th day. Things are getting really exciting now. Okay, so this is going to be easy for you all to find. Genesis chapter 1, verses 14 to 19. And God said, "Let there be lights in the vault of the sky to separate the day from the night, and let them serve as signs to mark sacred times and days and years. And let them be lights in the vault of the sky to give light on the earth." And it was so. God made 2 great lights, the greatest light to govern the day, and the lesser light to govern the night. He also made the stars. God set them in the vault of the sky to give light on the earth, to govern the day and the night, and to separate light from darkness. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the 4th day. So mankind has been fascinated with what's up in the sky ever since they could look up. It's the fascination with the whole form and function of what is seen there. We now call it the universe. And that fascination has gone on throughout thousands of years and still continues to this day. We only have to see how much interest there was in the spacecraft Artemis as it was whirling around the room. People are still fascinated by the sun, the moon, and the stars. I sort of, was interested, I have to say, more interested in trees. So totally relate to Ness's talk on trees. Trees are my thing. But I have to say, last year I was blessed with being able to go to a little observatory and have this a great demonstration and talk by a really, it was like a 6-foot tall Spanish guy called Leonardo. It just sounded so appropriate. And he had 2 big telescopes with him, and he told us all about the constellations and the stars. We looked through the telescope and we saw the moon up close. We saw Saturn's rings. We saw stars forming and stars dying, and galaxies way away. And I have to say, it blew my mind. It absolutely did. And it was just incredible. It was like one of the best nights of my life. It was amazing. But over the years, what people have also done, we learn more about it now, but in those days, there was this worship of these gods. And that they looked at the sun and the moon and the stars, and they were in awe and huge admiration for them. And they worshipped them. Even at the time that Genesis was written for the Jewish nation, there were thousands of worshippers of the sun and the moon, and many planned their lives around the interpretations of the stars and the planets' movements. And even to this day, there are people who still, in this world, who view the sun and moon as more than just physical objects in the sky. And then, of course, there's astrology, where we look at the stars and planets, and we're all trying to guess, when I'm going to meet that tall, dark, handsome stranger, or when lots of money is going to come into my life. But they are just physical entities. They're luminaries. This is a lovely title for these objects, luminaries. And in this Genesis description, you won't hear them referred to as sun, moon, star. They are given their functional titles. And the reason it's done that way is because it's to aim to highlight that these are just creations that are there to serve humans, and not the other way around, okay? And that which was prevalent in the days when these words were written. They were there to serve mankind in three main ways. They were there to separate the day and night. They were also signs of passage of time, and they illuminated the earth. There is a beautiful summation of this in Psalm 104, verses 19 to 23. He made the moon to mark the seasons, and the sun knows when to go down. You bring darkness, it becomes night, and all the beasts of the forest prowl. The lions roar for their prey and seek their food from God. The sun rises, and they steal away. They return and lie down in their dens. Then people go out to their work, to their labor until evening. So just to reiterate, the lights in the skies, the luminaries, were created to serve and not to be served. And this was a big reminder that there was only one God in this world, and that was the God of the Jews. That's the only God who was to be worshipped. And this was unfortunately something that the Jews forgot, and it resulted in quite dire consequences, a tradition that's been going on throughout the years. In Acts, no, that's wrong. In Acts 7:42 to 43. My numbering's gone wrong. Acts 7:42 to 43. But God turned away from them and gave them over to the worship of the sun, moon, and stars. This agrees with what is written in the book of the prophets. Did you bring me sacrifices and offerings for 40 years in the wilderness, people of Israel? You have taken up the tabernacle of Molech and the star of your god Rephaim, and the idols you made to worship. Therefore I will send you into exile beyond Babylon. Often the move towards other gods came from people's patience with God in dealing with problems. So the Jews lost patience with God because everything seemed to be just as bad as it was when they were living under Egypt's rule. And often we lose patience with God because he doesn't seem to hear our prayers or come and make the world right. Why does it at times seem that God is so distant and idle? We have been gifted with words in the Bible that remind us that our power, wisdom, and understanding is nothing compared to God's. For start off, we only have to look up to the skies. God has this incredible power of creation. We look at Psalm 33, verse 6. By the word of the Lord the heavens were made, their starry host by the breath of his mouth. Then we have Psalm 50, verse 1. The mighty one, God, the Lord, speaks and summons the earth from the rising of the sun to where it sets. And then we go to Job 38. Do you want me to slow down? You might want to give up trying to follow me. Job 38, verses 31 to 33. This is God speaking to Job. Can you bind the chains of the Pleiades? Can you loosen Orion's belt? Can you bring forth the constellations in their seasons, or lead out the bear with its cubs? Do you know the laws of the heavens? Can you set up God's dominion over the earth? And we're also reminded that God's wisdom is the greatest. We go to Jeremiah. Jeremiah 51, verses 15. He made the earth by his power. He founded the world by his wisdom, and he stretched out the heavens by his understanding. And then back to Psalms again. Psalm 19, verses 1 to 6. The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of his hands. Day after day they pour forth speech. Night after night they reveal knowledge. They have no speech, they use no words, no sound is heard from them. Yet their voice goes out into all the earth, their words to the ends of the world. In the heavens, God has pitched a tent for the sun. It is like a bridegroom coming out of his chamber, like a champion rejoicing to run its course. It rises at one end of the heavens and makes its circuit to the other. Nothing is deprived of its warmth. When God's amazing creation and purpose is disrupted by humans, then the result can be disastrous to the earth that God commanded us to care for. And in light of the fact that we're looking at light today, it seems only right that we should look at light pollution. So firstly, what is it? So there's several aspects to it. The first one is something known as sky glow, and that is the brightening of the night sky over inhabited areas. It's often seen as a pink or orange glow which obscures stars. I remember flying into LA and seeing this huge, huge glow over the city there. And you could see it over London as you come in. And then there's light trespass. This is where light is falling where it's not intended or needed, and it's such as a street lamp shining through a bedroom window. How many of us have had to try and sleep with that? It doesn't matter how dark the curtains are, it still seems to come through. And then there's glare, excessive, uncomfortable brightness that causes visual discomfort or disables the vision, such as from unshielded high-intensity security lights. And how many people have been blinded by car lights as they're coming towards them? And then there's something called clutter, which is bright, confusing and excessive grouping of light sources, often found in high-density commercial areas. So that's what light pollution is, but what is the effect of that? Why do we have to worry so much about it? Well, firstly, it affects the environment. It disrupts animals' nocturnal behaviours, such as their migration, their mating and their feeding, and it can disrupt plant cycles. They get very confused when there's light around when there isn't normally light around. And then it affects our human health as well. It interrupts what is known as the circadian rhythms that help us with sleeping, and it reduces the production of melatonin, which affects our sleep quality. And we all know what we're like if we don't get a good night's sleep. But for many, that could be a quite unhealthy place to be in. And then there's the astronomy aspect. It obscures the night sky. It makes it difficult to view stars. There are nearly 80% of the world's population living under light-polluted skies. And in this country, there's a third of us that cannot see the Milky Way in the night sky. I mean, how many times have you got out of London and then looked up and been amazed at what there is up there compared to what we used to see in Hounslow? And then there's light directed upwards or in unwanted areas, which is wasted energy, and we know how important it is to save energy, isn't it? So there are many things that are causing major disruptions to our ecosystem, but it does seem that light pollution should be one of those things that is easy to address. If we had the will, could we not just turn off all but essential lights? It doesn't seem complicated, does it? But you have to ask yourself, is there then a will to make changes? I mean, are there many of us in this world that believe that it's all too little too late? What difference is it going to make if I turn off a light? Within the Christian community, there are different views about what is happening to the world. Many believe that there is no need to be concerned because destruction, it's all in God's plans, and they will all be saved. And there are many prophecies in the Bible about how the lights in the sky will act in the end times. Sorry, folks, back to the Bibles. So Isaiah 13. Verses 9 to 10. See, the day of the Lord is coming, a cruel day with wrath and fierce anger, to make the land desolate and destroy the sinners within it. The stars of heaven and their constellations will not show their light. The rising sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. And then Luke in the New Testament. That's Luke 21. Verse 27. At that time they will see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. Oh, sorry. So it's 25 to 27. There will be signs in the sun, moon and stars. On the earth, nations will be in anguish and perplexity at the roaring, tossing of the seas. People will faint from terror, apprehensive of what is coming on the world, for the heavenly bodies will be shaken. And then, of course, Revelations. So that's chapter 8, verses 10 to 12. The third angel sounded his trumpet, and a great star, blazing like a torch, fell from the sky on a third of the rivers and on the springs of water. The name of the star is Wormwood. A third of the waters turned bitter, and many people died from the waters that had become bitter. The fourth angel sounded his trumpet, and a third of the sun was struck, a third of the moon, and a third of the stars, so that a third of them turned dark. A third of the day was without light, and also a third of the night. There is also a promise in scriptures that those who believe in Jesus, the Son of God, will not suffer when these events come to pass. In Acts 2:20 to 21 it says, "The sun will be turned to darkness and the moon to blood before the coming of the great and glorious day of the Lord. And everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved." There is a suggestion that this passage from Acts shouldn't be taken literally, but it does point to a view that is held by many Christians, that when the world ends, they will be taken away and saved. So if all followers of Christ will survive, why should we care about this world? The answer, or one of the main answers for that, is found in Genesis 2:15. The Lord God took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to work it and take care of it. We were given stewardship and responsibility of this world. We are commanded to rule over creation in a way that sustains, protects, and enhances it, rather than exploiting it for selfish gains. But there are other reasons that we should care for this world. It's showing worship and appreciation, because this world belongs to God and is deemed very good. Caring for it is a form of worship and appreciation for the Creator. How many of you who were given something beautiful by someone you cared about would just then stamp on it and throw it in the bin? And then there's the fact that it's all about loving our neighbours. Protecting the environment is an act of justice for humanity. Environmental damage, such as pollution and climate change, disproportionately harms the poor and vulnerable, making care for the earth a way to love one another. I know it seems like those people are thousands of miles away at times when we hear about the earthquakes, the tsunamis, the droughts, but they are still our neighbours. they are still God's children. And whatever little we can do here will make a difference to their lives. And then there's the fact that we should just be about preventing damage. Christians have a duty to not abuse or destroy what God has created, to ensure that natural resources are available for future generations. So it's not just about us in this world now. It's about our children and our children's children. And if we don't have children, it's about other people's children. It's about God's future children. Should we ruin this world for them? And then there is a last reason. And this reason is called the theology of renewal. So wiser minds than mine have been debating the fate of the earth at the end times for hundreds, if not thousands of years. There are those who believe that the followers of Jesus will be taken up to heaven and away from this world to be with God. Then there is known as the theology of renewal. It is believed that the Bible indicates that creation is to be redeemed and renewed alongside the believers, alongside us, and that this indicates it is of lasting value to God. Now, this is a subject that deserves more time than we have today to go into, but could we not agree that regardless of where you stand on the fate of the earth, even or if you haven't even thought about it, it seems that all believers should be able to agree on the other reasons for saying yes to life. As we look up into the sky, we see the awesomeness of God. Could we have ever had the imagination to create something so beautiful and inspiring, but also so integral to the well-being of all other of God's creations? As we look up into the sky, remember the words from Isaiah 55, 8-9. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. Amen.